Hi, it's Andy.
Hi, it's Dave.
Hi, it's Kirk.
Welcome to the ADK Rock and Metal channel. Today we're doing more of the Broken Down and Pulled Apart series. This is where we take a song, we break it down into sections. We go away, we watch the video, we make our own separate notes, then we play those sections back for you and obviously talk them through as we go. Today's band is a band called My Dying Bride. The song is For You. So My Dying Bride have been around since 1990. This came out in 1996. For context, and do you want to give us a little bit of a background on My Dying Bride if you've got anything to talk about that?
Not really more what's around. I think a lot of people know who they are. They're one of my favourite bands. This is from, as you say, the 1996 album, which is called Like Gods of the Sun. One of my favourite My Dying Bride tracks. I know it very, very well, know the video very well. So enjoyed breaking this one down and look forward to what your thoughts are on it as well.
Okay, without further ado, this is the first minute for you at home. Okay, let's kick it around the room. I'm going to let Andy take us through this because you might have some kind of clear insights on this one. So, yeah, first minute for you, Andy.
I'm not sure if it's the last album. I don't think it is, but it's an album that has got what many people believe is the sort of the classic My Dying Bride lineup. You know, it's the original lineup, consisting of Aaron Stainthorpe on vocals, Andrew Cragen. Is that how you say his name? I never know.
Probably Cragen
on guitar.
Yeah.
Go over your better judgment there. Kevin Robertshaw on guitar, Rick Meyer on drums, Adrian Jackson on bass, and the well-travelled Martin Powell on keyboards and violin. As I said, this is one of my all-time favourite My Dying Bride songs. This is actually a video edit. I thought it did seem a little short when I sort of revisited the video and sort of checking it against the sort of the full, the album version. It's a couple of minutes shorter. Not quite sure what's been cut, as it were, without sort of listening to them two back to back. But first minute, from looks wise, I really like this sort of blue filter that they're using on the sort of performance sections. There's a good use of the slow-mo effect. It sort of matches the tempo of the music without it looking disjointed. They've got that right, the producer of the video. I mean, straight in, the song kicks off with a fairly up-tempo riff, certainly by My Dying Bride standards. The band are sort of banging away, head banging away, a lot of the time sort of in slow motion. As I say, it really works with the tempo of the song. Aaron is he's not singing at this point, but he's writhing in despair and looking despondent and troubled by what's to come. But yeah, great start to the song. At 30 seconds, the tempo and the mood does drop, and it's like a sort of dual sort of harmony guitar riff from the two guys, which is sort of very typical My Dying Bride. And then sort of just before the minute ends, Aaron starts with the first verse, which is sort of in a whispered, clean style. Again, very, the style that he's sort of well known for and employs a lot, especially at this sort of period of the band's career.
Cool. All right, Kirk.
Yeah, I had the pleasure of interviewing Aaron Stainthorpe, the vocalist for My Dying Bride, during COVID in 2020. He ran a piece, Screen Bash Repeat, where we reviewed the discography. So let me just read out what he said about the context of this album, Like Gods of the Sun, 1996. So he said, it was an era when the label were giving us a strong push and we saw the LP sell like hotcakes all over the world. And the press trips I had to do were long and busy, but very much worth it, covering magazines, radio stations, TV and newspapers. The internet was still in its infancy then, so press was all done face-to-face or over the phone. We actually never set out to make the LP that was made. We just carried on doing what we do and hoped it would be okay. I wanted a break from death metal vocals, so tried a different approach, and it worked for the most part. So it is important to say that there is a change of direction for this song. The first minute, it seems like they've got the same video director as the person who directed Heartwork by Carcass. If you look at the lighting, the slow-mo shots, you know, the heroic head spinning poses when they're playing the high tempo guitars. And the first 30 seconds are quite thrilling in terms of tempo for My Dying Bride, who a lot of people associate with doom metal. I don't. That's because to me, at this period in the career, they're very much defining what is the gothic metal sound. So you can hear the later stages of Sisters of Mercy in this more than you can Candlemass, just to give you an example. But it does assume a doom metal tempo, doesn't it? In the opening riff, after the first 30 seconds, and you can hear arpeggiated passages, probably from Calvin Robertshaw, and the harmonized guitar phrasing over the top from Andrew Quain. So great start, and this was the first song I ever heard by My Dying Bride, and that was in the year 2000.
I think for me, it's a difficult one for me to sort of really give as much context as you guys, because I have no real background with My Dying Bride. I think I've heard 2, maybe 3 other songs of My Dying Bride in my entire life. And I think at least 2 of those we've covered on this channel. So that would be my kind of reference point as far as this band goes. I know that Paradise Lost and My Dying Bride get talked about, and I've never seen the similarities and the songs that we've covered. I've been like, well, they sound like chalk and cheese to me. They don't sound anything like each other. But on this one, I can kind of say, oh yeah, okay, right, I get where people have talked about the Paradise Lost and the Doom elements and My Dying Bride and the British Doom sort of elements. So I got that a little bit more on this track. It is dark, it's moody, it's atmospheric. The way that the intro then suddenly switched, that intro up tempo riff just switches into the slower stuff, didn't work for me at all. As far as the vibe, I was like, it feels like you've just written 2 completely separate songs. And it doesn't naturally, there's no natural flow. It's like, we're just going to rock out and then go, fuck it, let's just play a different song. Let's just do this one over here instead for a bit. And then we'll just go back and play this up-tempo one for a bit of fun. It didn't quite connect with me on that at that point. And it was nice to see Aaron with hair as well. I was like, hey, he did have hair at one point. Yay! Video-wise, it was of its time. Quite interesting, I suppose. It's rocking out and in a room with a blue light on it. Bit of fun. But yeah, I at this point I was like, okay, where's this going to go? I think that's where I was for that first kind of minute. And it's really interesting you said Sisters of Mercy, because I'm going to jump to my last comment, which I wrote in the last minute, which is Aaron reminds me of Andrew Eldritch from Sisters of Mercy during this performance. Vocally, this was reminding me, specifically the latter part of the song, but it does. I was like, do you know what? He sounded really Sisters of Mercy at this point. And in some of his dialect and the ways he's put the pronunciations of certain words, he's doing it. So I thought that was quite interesting. But let's play the next minute for you at home. Okay, Andy, kicks off on this one.
I've got to mention during the first minute, we've also got like the sort of story element shots as well, which involves a sort of man on the floor who's naked on his upper half, kind of looking quite troubled. Now, I don't think there's any relation to the lyrics in this story part that they've included. So to me, I'm thinking it's like when someone's on cold turkey and they're locked in a room trying to get off the strong drugs. There does appear to be sort of grog type paraphernalia on the floor, and he looks distressed anyway. That's the connection with My Dying Bride. The fact that he looks in absolute torment and misery, whatever is going on, he's writhing around on the floor. So I mean, that kind of is an interesting break from 4 minutes of them just performing in the room with the blue light. So it sort of breaks up the images a little bit. But musically, in sort of the second minute, there's a very memorable line that Aaron sings, which I strikes a chord with me. When I see your face, all the angels are shamed. I think that's just basically this is a doom metal love song. Let's not beat around the bush. That's basically what it is. As many are, some are sort of direct love songs like this. Others are sort of more to do with the loss of a loved one. But the highlight of the whole song for me comes at 1 minute 38 when Martin Powell's sort of magnificent, sorrowful violin sort of comes forth and centre, over top of everything else. Long drawn out opening note. I mean, I love the violin. I love it. I love the way My Dying Bride utilise it, and just a really, really brilliant part of the song, which they've used from the early start of the career. There's a period when the violins disappeared, but sort of they've brought them back in later albums as well. But I just think it's a very key element to My Dying Bride sound. And Martin Powell I think he's a fantastic musician. He like I say, he's been around. Cradle of Filth for one, numerous other bands, but he played a big part in My Dying Bride's early career.
Okay. Kirk.
This song was not enough to get me into the band, so I heard it on I think it might have been a Terrorizer cover mount CD for Peaceful Records, and perhaps I come into My Dying Bride from a different angle. I love the monumental guitar riffing. Yes, I know that the content is sometimes bordering on the sinister or hopelessly romantic, and that's a feature that draws you in. I don't really see this as a dark song, though. Even with the vocal delivery, it's almost like that. If you come across this band, by the band name that it's going to be maudlin, introspective. So I'm not listening to it for that. That's just a good byproduct of it. I'm listening to crunchy guitar riffs. I agree with you, Dave. The reason I couldn't get into this band, or I didn't check them out at the time, was because it is like they've merged two songs in one. And when they start off at that high tempo and then drag that all the way down to barely breathing, I don't think it is a great use of dynamics. There is too much of a contrast there. However, in this part, we do actually come across the best guitar riff with Martin Powell's violin bows over the top of it. And that riff shows the best of My Dying Bride because it's sinister, it's heavy, it's extreme metal. Just for that one moment, there's a lot of weight behind it. But by 1996, that had already become orthodox. These were doing it from 1992 onwards, so they were pioneers of it. But you know what I'm going to say? The band that did pioneer this was a certain group from Switzerland called Celtic Frost. And at the time, it earned the label avant-garde metal, which by 1996, it had become not the norm, but many more bands are doing it. And My Dying Bride were really the transition from Celtic Frost to that gothic doom metal sound. So definitely pioneers, even on this song. And one more thing, again, I am going to agree with you, Dave. Very rarely do My Dying Bride and Paradise Lost sound similar, or as if they're operating in the same realm. They're not. My Dying Bride are far heavier and have got a lot more death metal in their sound, which we don't hear in this song, but I can tell our viewers, if you've never heard this band before, there's some really dark, aggressive death metal moments in the back catalogue of this band as well.
One thing I would say, when watching this video, because obviously I've not heard this song, so Andy, you might be able to help me out on this one, knowing this track. The vocals in this video seemed a little bit lost, and I don't know if that was. I've actually put a note saying I don't know if that was the recording or if it's just the fact of the music video, because it's been probably uploaded so many times and compressed so many times that the vocals have lost any of that cut through. Because I was just listening to it going, you sound like you're lost in the mix here. And I'm sure that can't be that how it sounds. And it just maybe it was me because they didn't cut through the way I thought they were going to. So I don't know if that's exactly how it does sound on the album because you obviously know the lyrics and stuff like that. But I didn't have the lyrics to hand, and I was like, I have no idea what you're saying, mate, at all. But
I haven't sort of noticed a sort of lack of clarity or in the video compared to the album version.
Okay, might just be me.
Yeah,
it may have just been me on the way myself.
You may be right. You may be right, but I was sort of obviously concentrating on sort of analysing aspects of this that I probably wouldn't have normally analysed before. But yeah, maybe I'm hearing it fuller and clearer because I know
you know it automatically. It's a lot easier if you've heard the song a few times before. But
my mind is forming the lyrics. My mind is forming the lyrics as they're being produced. Yeah.
I mean, I like the video as well from this, but I like the fact that the storytelling elements of the video is just getting to the point. It's not like we're going to be really completely abstract and be like, look, there's a guy, he's fucked up. He's like, there's pills and stuff. I'm like, okay, dark, moody, guys like trying to recover from some sort of thing. Kind of, yeah, okay, you're not making me having to work for this too much. I can probably dig a bit deeper.
Yeah, I didn't say the woman appears in this section as well. And, you're thinking, is she there to help or to torment him further?
And that's what I was thinking. I was like, okay, look, there's a nice story and you're not making it too abstract. So I quite like that. I like that from the video point of view. At this point during this minute, we get that switch back up in tempo from the slow bit back up in tempo. And again, I was like, no, it doesn't work going up in tempo for me. It just doesn't. The thing I want to work at, or the thing I always want to sit down is with the guys that wrote this, is go, so when you're in the studio, why did you do the change up? Was it something you wrote this cool riff and went, it'd be really cool to mess with people and do this change? Or was it a case of you did these two separate riffs and you were trying to put them together? It's the logic that people put, because to me, these two riffs don't logically go together. They don't make sense together as a song. It's just like it's almost like you're going to be like, screw it, we're going to make them work together and we're going to just do it. And it'll be great and it'll be off the kilter a little bit. And I can respect that if I understand the reason of why, almost. If there's a thought process behind it and like there's a real logical sense, and usually there is a kind of, they want to make you think a certain way, or maybe it's meant to be like the split duality of someone's mental place, is that 1 minute you're aggressive and angry and then the second moment, and that could be the reason behind it. But I think I need to know that reason, otherwise it just sounds like lazy songwriting of putting two riffs that don't naturally go together sort of thing. So that's the only thing I would love to know a little bit more about, because on the first listen, it doesn't work for me as a listener. Both of the sections are really cool, but putting them together doesn't work for me listening. But I think if you listen to it enough times, it probably would. And we've seen that with songs before, where one listen to a song and you go, nah, but by 8 or 9 listen, you're like, do you know what? I really get this now. This is cool. I can because you can almost preempt what's coming. But let's go into the next. Let's do from minutes 2 to the end. And let's do all the way to the end for the rest of this song for you at home. Okay, Andy, take us through to the end then.
Not really much more to add, really. I mean, we return to the verse, and I'm, because I know the song so well, and it's been a while since I watched the video. I'm expecting the, my violin section to come back in, but it returns to like the intro riff, the up tempo riff with the vocals over the top, and sort of kind of then gently sort of fades away and sort of naturally comes to an end. But I've never really thought about the contrast in the tempos, to be honest. I can't recall another song that employs a sort of similar format. So who knows? You might have something there, Dave, regarding the sort of the two states of mind, the two emotions of a particular person. You mentioned the video and the story elements part of that. I think, yeah, you're right. You don't have to work too hard as to what's going on. The room begins to fill with water. The woman starts pacing around, and the guy's still riding around in sort of discomfort and agony. But it doesn't tell you a lot, but it doesn't not tell you anything about what's going on. It's an interesting kind of, again, maybe it's the contrast again, isn't it? The sort of two completely different sort of sets of visuals that, I might be a little bit biased, but they work really well, as much as the different tempos in the riff. Sorry.
I think, yeah, I agree with you on that one. Just in the sense that if you take it on face value, it can work. Just sitting back but when you start to analyze it, you're like, why? That's the question I'm asking the whole way through. It is why. So what is and why and what? So what is this about? Why have they decided to go this route? Because it doesn't quite. There's no logic to me in a lot of what it is. But on face value, it kind of makes sense. All the riffs make sense. The vocal performance makes sense. And the videos make sense. But when you throw it all as a project, you're kind of looking at it going, yeah, but why? I don't quite get the logic behind it. But Kirk?
Yeah, I'll pick up on some interesting discussion points that you both raised. First one, there is I would say track number 2 on the 1993 album, Turn Loose the Swans, Your River, Andy, does employ some similar dynamics where it's quite heavy and fast and then really brings down the tempo and comes back. It's not identical to this, so I can understand why you wouldn't think that they are aligned in the terms of the songwriting. Dave, I'm going to hazard a guess as to why they've used these tempos, and it's based on the lyrics that Aaron has composed here, which are sorrowful, introspective, they're always poetic, and I think that opening riff is unsuitable and possibly disrespectful to the mood of those lyrics. They'd just be squandered. So you could potentially have these exquisite lyrics squandered to the guitar riff and the tempo and people banging their heads. And I think Aaron has probably sat down with Andrew Quayle and said, look, these need space to breathe. They need the respect. They need a bit of calm and serenity. What can you do with that? Because that probably explains why he's even using semi-electric guitars in that space. Because you're right, it doesn't really work. So I think it's really about compromising and doing something that's respectful to the mood of those lyrics. At the same time, though, that balance between high and low dynamics. On one point, you've got the adrenaline action. At the other, you've got the maudlin in action. And that contrast is very hard to resolve. But as you said, if you've listened to it by the 9th time, you get used to it. So I said to you that this wasn't enough to get me into the band in 2000. A year later, in 2001, Turn Loose the Swans, the 1993 album, is exceptionally dark and atmospheric. And it's the type of album you would play with the lights out. And when I first heard that, I loved it. So now I do appreciate this song. And I must say, this is actually my 3rd favorite My Dying Bride album, Like Gods of the Sun, from I think we're up to album number 15 or 16. So this is one of the best records. This is not a standout track on the record, though, in my opinion.
Can I just pick up what you said about Your River? I think you're absolutely right. That isn't an overly long song, but I think on that one you've got at least sort of 2.5 minutes, 3 minutes of sort of up tempo sort of guitars, and then like this one, it just completely drops, and then Aaron starts the story. In this case, being at a funeral for your lost lover. Again, it's maybe you're absolutely right. Maybe the up tempo and the aggression that kicks off some of these songs doesn't warrant the lyrics be overshadowed by the music. So you've got a really good point there on regarding both tracks.
Well, there you go, My Dying Bride, and for you, not just you at home, but for everyone, I guess.
You.
Let us know what you think in the comments down below. I hope you enjoyed our video today, and we will see you on the video sometime very soon. Take care.